Welcome, everybody, to the Courageous Truth Podcast. I'm so excited. Today is going to be a phenomenal conversation. I'm here with my great friend, FranJ, and he is with the Tacoma Rescue Mission. And his heart is to serve the homeless population of the area. And he's got some great things that he's working on, that his team is working on, that I'm excited, and he's excited to share with you. So we're going to jump right into this conversation. But before I do, I want to make sure that all the information that we talk about, I'm going to put in the show notes. So if you need to look more at the vision of what they're doing, look at the Tacoma Rescue Mission, any information that FranJ wants you to have, to make sure that you look in the show notes so you can go after the show and take a look. But FranJ, before we kind of jump into it, could you take a minute and just so people know who you are, could you just talk a little bit about yourself, your family, your ministry, just kind of introduce yourself to us?
Yeah, so again, FranJ Jackson, born and raised in Tacoma, and, kind of grew up. It's a difficult, my story is not an easy one to tell. And it's definitely not an easy story to summarize. So I'll try to do my best at doing that. Grew up in Tacoma, very low income. I shudder at using the word poor because there's so much. What does that really mean, right? All I know is that we didn't have much, and we did what we could. My mom and three sisters, she did the best that she could with what we had. And so grew up. Now, my mom was an alcoholic, and so we had, there was that dynamic in the household.
Right.
Again, three sisters, and get out of high school in 1978, which is aging myself now. And I turned 18.
Where did you go to high school?
Henry Foss High School.
Oh, okay. Yeah, sure.
In Tacoma. I turned 18 in July, and then my mother died of an accidental drug and alcohol overdose in August of 1978.
Oh, wow.
So my sisters and I, and I want to get to the point of why this is so important to me about homelessness and how that connects to my ministry, is that my sisters and I were thrust into homelessness in a young age. So I'm 18, one sister older at 19, two sisters younger at 15 and 16. And so, there was that. And if that weren't enough, then comes the 80s and the crack epidemic of the 80s and all of that stuff. So we've been through a lot as a 4-person family, trying to survive, and a lot of that had to do with homelessness, and a lot of that had to do with drug addiction, and so this is why that it's so important to me to get folks to understand that the way to everything, the way out of everything, is through the love of Jesus Christ.
Amen.
It's through the love of Jesus Christ. There have been many ways to try. We've done it, but it all comes back to the love of the Father, the Holy Spirit, and the Son. And so I just want to make sure that I get that in there, because I think that it expresses, as we go along with this conversation, it'll express my reasoning and my why behind everything.
Sure. And I grew up going to Life Center Church, which is right there by Henry Foss. And I remember really young, there was when the 80s that you're talking about with the drug epidemic, and there was a lot of gangs in Tacoma. It was very violent, very dangerous in that part of Tacoma, which adds on top of to everything you were going through, plus so many others were going through as well. So those were very, very serious times. So were you the oldest? You were the youngest, or?
I was the second oldest.
Okay. All right. And
the only son.
And can I ask, and you don't have to answer, but like, where did you guys stay? Where did you sleep? Where did you cook your meals? What did a typical day look like for you navigating that season of your life?
Yeah, so here's the difficult part to explain, which is more sad than anything, is
Yeah.
that so as we huddled in the bathroom of Tacoma General Hospital as my mother was brain dead,
Yeah.
we said to each other, well, we just have to go for what we know, right? We pretty much raised ourselves in the
Yeah.
household
Yeah.
with my mother, being checked out a lot with alcoholism and that kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
And so we kind of all dispersed into the city, if you will, on our own. Now we
Right.
didn't sleep in the same places. We didn't eat the
Mm-hmm.
same. So we just kind of went out. Now,
Yeah.
for me as a male, um, there's things that I had to do to survive.
Yeah.
You don't know where your meal is coming from. So you have to create an avenue to get a meal. You don't know where you're going to get any money. So you have to create an avenue to get money.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. So that's me as a male. But when we talk about my sister, now we're talking 16 and 15-year-old girls
Yeah.
living on the streets of Tacoma. And we were raised on the hilltop of Tacoma.
Yeah.
So you're talking about right in the heart of where everything,
Yeah.
take the east side out, right?
Sure.
Everything is happening during that time frame. And so it wasn't a great place to be, and it wasn't a place that was full of resources. Let me put it that way. So a typical day would be trying to survive.
Yeah.
Into the night, sleeping. I have slept in many abandoned cars, many garages that sad to say, that had to break into to get out of the cold.
Yeah.
And slept in bushes and that kind of thing, man, to try to figure out how I could get to tomorrow. That was the goal, get to tomorrow.
Yeah. Wow.
So yeah, that was, and again, it's sad at the same time, but then there is that redemption that comes through Christ.
Yeah.
Right. That going through in my life, because I constantly wanted to know, why am I here? Because God was forming me in the fire, if you will, to be able to do what I do now, is working with the rescue mission, working with folks who are drug addiction, working with folks who are homelessness or who are experiencing homelessness, those types of things. So God knew. Yeah. But I had no idea, but it was tough.
So, and this wasn't on our sheet to talk about, but could you talk about how you came to Christ, and maybe just share briefly just how did you find Christ in the midst of this personal crisis and struggle that you were going through?
And Pastor, and this will take up a lot of time, so I really got to summarize some of this stuff. So about fifth grade, I wasn't a great kid, right? So I was. Well, I got to back up some. So third, fourth grade, I got kicked out of school on the hilltop, and I got bussed off of the hilltop to go to school. And then I got to bus back. And so I'm not living and going to school with the people that I'm raised around. Right. And so I like to look at my life as touch points by God. And I believe that God touched my life at that moment, because I had a horrible report card in fifth grade, and my stepdad at the time put me on restriction, and I didn't have a room. I didn't have my own bedroom until I was 16 years old. And so I was sleeping in my sister's room for the entire summer. I was on restriction for the entire summer. Now, during that time, I'm laying in bed a lot, and I'm thinking, man, there just has to be something better for me. Now, you're talking about a 10-year-old boy. There has to be something better for me in my life. This cannot be the way that life is supposed to be for me. And so, again, not knowing God, but I remember just talking it out. Like, something is out there. Something has to be better for me. Right. So I like to believe that was another touch point where God touched my life and said, listen, I hear you. I eventually it's going to work out. Now, I took all of those things, man, into my junior high school years and my high school years, like always searching and seeking, but not knowing God, but always searching and seeking. And so I just believe that God, because there was a time when I was supposed to go from in junior high school, I was going to go to Jason Lee, where everyone in the hilltop pretty much went to Jason Lee. And I said, I don't want to go to Jason Lee. I just don't feel that because I'm not going to school with the people that I'm living around. And people were pretty, rude about that. And they treated me badly. So I didn't want to go to that school. So I ended up going to Stewart. junior high school, which was way out away from the hilltop. Again, I'm getting busting out there. And so then when I'm done at Stewart, everyone from the hilltop area was going to Lincoln, some going to Stadium. I didn't want to go to school with folks that I was living around. And so I ended up going to Foss. That's how I ended up going to Foss. And again, I like to look at those are like touch points that God's saying, I got you. Let me move you over here. Let me move you over here, because this is where you're going to get what you're after if you just follow this pathway. And so I've always kind of been off kiltered from everyone else. People all do this way, and I'm like, maybe there's a different way. I'm going to try it over here. So I like to look at it that way. So now when we're talking about how did I come up off the streets? So I'm sleeping on the corner of 25th and M Street.
Yeah.
One night after getting into an argument with a friend of mine in a fight, and I lost the fight. We've been knowing each other since we're 13 years old. We fought all the time. Sometimes I'd win, sometimes he'd win, but he was winning this way. And he was on top of me. And here's the thing, Pastor, he is still one of my very best friends to this day.
Oh, yeah.
Right. And so he had me straddled down with a brick. And he's ready to bash my head in, and I'm begging him to. I'm begging him, Pastor, to kill me because I was no good to anyone, and I need you to kill me, please. So he ends up dropping the rock or the brick and then lays on top of me, and we're crying. Then he gets up, walks away. Now, that night I slept right there, and I prayed to God, God, help me. Help me. I don't know what else to do.
Right.
So then that next morning I get up and I just start walking, Pastor. I'm walking. I don't know where I'm going. I don't know who I'm going to see. I don't know anything. I'm just walking, and I end up, that was the direction to change my life. Now I really have to summarize it.
Yeah.
So I end up in Auburn. I go from Auburn. I end up in Olympia. Right. So Olympia, Lacey area, that's where I end up meeting my wife, who we've been together for over 30 years. Right. But it was that obedience of saying, I heard something say, go.
Wow.
Because I was done from my hilltop time. And I was notorious out in the streets of the hilltop. And so that time had come to an end, and God was saying, go. There's a whole nother life. I don't know what it looks like. And I'm confused because I don't know what it looks like.
Wow.
And yet I just followed what I thought was a voice from God. And so along this way and on this journey, I began to discern the different voices that I was hearing in my head to like, that's not of God. This is of God. This is where I believe that he wants me to go. And I'm telling you, man, that was, whoa. And again, there's no one's perfect. There's always stuff that's happening in your life. But I tell you what, man, that I believe in my heart and soul that was the moment that changed everything.
Wow.
But touch points along the way.
That's an amazing. Now, so those who are listening and watching understand. I remember, Frank, the first time that I met you, and this is what makes your testimony so powerful. I remember you coming in here full of energy, full of life, so excited, talking to everybody, shaking hands, hugging everybody, and this is the first time I've really heard the depths of where you've been. And that is just such a testament to, like you said, the love of Christ and how the love of Christ can transform a life. I would not have known that you have been through all this, because you come in, you're excited, you're talking about the Lord, you're excited about what you're doing and what God's doing through your life. I would never have known, you know? And so I think that this kind of leads itself into, the next question is why homeless? And you pretty much answered it, but why those who are struggling with homelessness is so close to your heart? And maybe talk a little bit about that, but also maybe talk to someone like me who's never experienced homelessness. How do we get, and you shared it too, but how do we, what do we not understand about the homelessness issue?
Yeah. So I think there's a lot of information out there that people can get. But I'll touch on that in just 1 second. But I want to go back to what we were talking about a little bit earlier.
Sure.
So I made it my goal in life to not be recognized as my old self, which is why people don't see that. When they look at me, they don't see what I've gone through.
Yeah.
Right. Because I believe that when you become a new creature in Christ, see, I was one of the folks who actually believed what the Bible said.
Sure. Yeah.
if I apply it to my life.
Yeah.
So once I become a
Crazy.
new creature, that all of
Yeah.
the old stuff had to go away. So
Mhm.
therefore, I had to walk differently, I had to act differently, I had to talk differently, I had to dress differently, I had to do all the things so I can become a new person and a new creature in Christ. So there's that. But I think that here's one thing that I think people should understand.
Yeah.
That housing alone will not solve homelessness. Now, the housing is the problem and housing is the solution, but alone it will not solve homelessness. Because what we know is that it takes community. It takes someone being with you, alongside you, just as Christ did, as Christ does with us. He walks alongside of us and says, I'm here for you. I know you're struggling with that. I'm here for you. And here's I'm going to go down some statistics now. Approximately 2,148 people in Pierce County are experiencing homelessness at any point in time. So we go 23 out of every 10,000 people. 23 out of every 10,000 people are experiencing homelessness.
Wow.
Of that number, 1,000 of those folks are chronically homeless. So that means people who have been without somewhere to live for a year, 5 years, 10 years, up to 20 years. Who are in the streets. And these are the folks that we see in the encampments, on the side of the roads, all of these things, through our car windows, at the freeway exits and entrances, and everywhere. That these are folks who are chronically homeless and who for whatever reason don't have anywhere else to go. Right? Because they don't have community. And it's the one thing that we and I'm not sure of where you live, Pastor, but I kind of get a sense of it. But you live in a community. That's one of the reasons why you're a pastor. You talk about community, because that's the best way for people to. But I think it's misunderstood. It's like, why is that person out there? Why don't they just find somewhere to be? Well, it sounds simple enough, but it's just not. So there's a website called endhomelessness.org. Endhomelessness.org that I would encourage folks to go to.
And it'll be in the show notes too. So they just click on that.
Okay. So in 2017, they estimated that it would cost, the cost to taxpayers was $35,578 per person who was living on the streets. $35,578. That's what it would cost
annually
in services.
Okay.
Right. Hospitals, doctor, all the stuff. For one person. Now that's in 2017. Now we clearly know that number is higher now.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay. And so, so last year in Pierce County, 28,036 people experienced homelessness on any given night in Washington State. In Washington State, 28,000 people.
And that was a number from 2017?
This number is from 2023.
Okay. So
we're looking at 28,000.
And that could be upwards, couldn't it? I mean,
yes. 30,000. Yeah, because here's the thing with these numbers.
That's a city. That's really a city.
You have to want to be counted, though.
Yeah.
Right? So obviously there are folks out there that don't want to be counted.
Yeah.
And so that number is not shown in this. So that's in 2023. So 653,104 people in the United States were homeless in 2023.
Wow.
That's over 500,000 people.
I don't even know how to process that information in my head.
Man. Yeah, man. So, and here's the thing, 143,105 individuals experiencing chronic homelessness.
Yeah.
Now come on, Pastor, 100,000 people, over 100,000 people are chronically homeless in the streets of the United States of America.
Yeah.
So what we're saying is 36 people experience homelessness out of every 10,000 people.
Yeah.
36 people. Now we say that 36 people, but every 10,000, come on, man. 10,000, that's not a lot of people when you look at the big numbers. And so, yeah, exactly. So on a given night in 2023, 31% of the homeless population reported living with a serious mental illness. So there's that as well.
Yeah.
And 24% of those folks related to chronic drug related illness.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So we're talking that it's a serious thing, because if it were as simple as, and I want to go back to my story, if it were as simple as me laying in the bushes saying, God help me, and then God directing my path, but that again, we're talking way back in time,
right,
in the 1900s.
Yeah.
Right, that was easy to do then.
Yeah.
Now it's so much difficult, so much harder for people to do these types of things because of the lack of resources, the lack of housing, and the lack of community around housing.
Yeah.
So I think that that's a lot of the stuff that people just don't understand.
Yeah.
These statistics that we talked about earlier, these matter because these are actually really real people that we're talking about.
I mean, and each, like you gave big numbers, but each one represents a person, represents a story, represents, a pain, represents a struggle, represents a hope, and so like before we get into the good news about all this and what you guys are doing, and this wasn't on there either, but maybe just take a moment if you could and touch on there's a stigma around the homeless community, the homeless population, and maybe what that is, maybe what that stigma is and where it comes from, and how it deters people from really wanting to offer help and believe that there is help and there is options. Maybe speak into that just briefly.
Yeah. So we as a rescue mission, and we're not the only organization that does this, but we as a rescue mission have outreach teams that go out and meet folks and talk to folks and build relationship with folks. Because again, what we understand is that what's missing is a community, and what's missing is the relationship. It is no different than Christ building relationships as well. Christ walked amongst the people.
Sure did.
And that's exactly what we try to do as an organization, is walk with and amongst people. So it's not like we're shying away saying, hey, I see you over there. Hopefully you'll get some help. It's like, no, we're coming right into your encampment, and we're coming right into wherever you're sleeping on the streets and saying, how can we help you?
Yeah.
That's the good news part, is that people are actually doing good work to help with this.
Yeah. Wow. And to kind of think about you've mentioned community over and over. And I think about my own life, how blessed I am to be a part of just a small community. If my car breaks down, I have people in my phone that I can call and okay, where do I find a mechanic? Or if there's an emergency, I have a place to take my child so that I can go deal with the emergency. Like, I don't see how anybody can live without community. I don't see how anybody can, like, you can't. I couldn't imagine it at all. Like, we're not created to live outside of a community of people. Like, that's how we're created. And so when I meet people that are chronically homeless and on the street, they don't have family. You know, like a lot of them, like you ask them, where's their family, brother? They don't know, or they're gone, and they're all alone. And so it's just, bringing that up, Frank, I think is so important for people like me to understand what a big piece that is lacking. And as a part of that, you have a solution. You have a vision to help meet that need. And that's where this Good Neighbor Village comes into play. So maybe you could explain to the listener who maybe has never heard of the Good Neighbor Village, what is it? Where does this vision come from? And where are you, what are you hoping that and believing and praying that what this does to our community and to the homeless community as well?
So one other thing I want to say, right?
Yeah, quick. Sure. Go ahead.
Because there was the question of, why is homeless such an issue that's so close to my heart?
Yeah.
Right. Because people are dying out there, Pastor.
Yeah.
People are dying in the streets, man.
Yeah.
And in Pierce County, 295 people died in the streets in last year, 2023, which is an increase of 89% over 2022. People are dying.
Just on the side of the road?
On the side of the road.
Yeah.
People are dying
Mm-hmm.
on the streets.
Yeah.
In our community.
Yeah.
In Pierce County alone.
Wow.
That's not counting King County. That's not counting
I know.
us.
Yeah.
That's just counting Pierce County.
Mm-hmm.
That's heartbreaking.
Yes.
And so, because of that, Bruce Danmeyer, who was the county executive, wanted to address the homeless crisis in Pierce County. And so he asked Steve O'Ban, who was working at the office, but who was also a former congressman, to look for a solution.
Sure.
And so Steve researched and found Mobile Loaves and Fishes, which is the community first village down in Austin, Texas.
Okay.
And so I would encourage everyone, if you will, on here to look that up.
Okay.
MLF, and I believe it's .com, but MLF, Mobile Loaves and Fishes, and it's the community first village, and you'll get there.
Yeah, I'll find the link. I'll find the link. I'll put it in the show notes.
Okay. And so what Steve did was he flew down to try to get a true experience of the project that they have going on down there. So he immersed himself down there and stayed actually there for up to 10 days at a time, just so he can be immersed in this community and feel the culture. And so then Steve became excited about the possibility of having something like that here in Pierce County.
Yeah.
And so then he and Bruce, I guess, met with the executive director, Duke Paulson, for the rescue mission and tried to figure out how that could happen here. And so that's where we are now. We had to identify land. We had to go through county executive hearings and all these things to identify land space that will be able to that we will be able to build something that is modeled after the community first village in Austin, Texas.
Yeah.
So we believe that that's one solution, and so our solution for that would be we are building 285 micro homes, if you will, for people to live in there, and on that, and we have 86 acres.
Yeah.
And then so building 285 homes. Because we feel that is going to create this community, this feel that we say, man, I don't know what to do. I don't have anybody to walk alongside of me. And on this, we will have support. So we will have mental health. We will have healthcare. We're working with partnerships with MultiCare to have healthcare. We'll have a community and farm, a farm there, a community garden there. We'll have a civic building there. We'll have all of these things that will help people feel a sense of community. And each of these homes will, and so out in that area, there was septic. And so we are putting in a sewer line.
Yeah.
Which obviously is one of the biggest costs, is a sewer line to pipe into.
Yep.
And then as being good neighbors, offer the neighbors the opportunity to pipe into there as well and come off of septic.
Yep.
And so, and so that's the whole thing about building the community of folks. Yeah. And so over a 10-year period, if we were to house 260 chronically homeless individuals at Good Neighbor Village, we would save the taxpayers $92,502,800.
Wow.
Savings to the taxpayers based off of the numbers, right? So,
And money talks. So if you're a taxpayer, you're listening, listen to what Frank's saying. Go ahead. Sorry.
No, that's absolutely true, right? Again, it will save taxpayers money.